Seahawks start the season with a fantastic win in Atlanta, and they do it with a very different offense than I think anybody was expecting coming into this game. I'm Rob Staton. Robbie Williams is with us as well. Robbie, what do you make of that then? A win on opening weekend, and they let Russell Wilson cook.
Yeah, I mean, how fun was that? I mean, right out the gate, the first drive, they come down, they score a touchdown. Second possession of the game, they come right down to score a touchdown. I mean, it looked a lot different. I think they surprised me, And again, not trying to read too much into week one. Things will definitely change. But man, how fun was that? That was just a good opening to the season.
I think what it showed as well, Robbie, is that you don't have to wait until the fourth quarter to win a game. I really hope that Peters, look, it's been fine for years. And you know what? People like to mock Pete for the whole, you can't win a game in the first quarter. You can't win a game. Do you know what? That style of football worked for the Seahawks. It delivered this team's first ever Super Bowl. So there is some merit in playing that way. And nobody should be getting silly about stuff on Twitter and social media right now. But this is not the year to play that style of football. This roster is not capable of playing complementary football. If they'd have come out today to try and shorten the game and try and make it a 13-6 type of game, they'd have been destroyed because there was no pressure on Matt Ryan. He threw for 450 yards. They were running at 4.5 yards per carry. The only way the Seahawks could win this game, Robbie, was to attack from the start, to deliver some tempo, to put points on the board, take Atlanta out their comfort zone and make them chase the game, which they did. And that is the way they're going to have to play in week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way through to week 17.
Yeah, and we knew that the Falcons would put up a lot of yards. I mean, we kind of said, it's the bend but don't break defense. Just hold them to 3 instead of touchdowns. That was the big thing. I mean, Julio Jones had 9 catches for 157 yards. I think we all expected that. Calvin Ridley had 9 catches for 130 yards. That's kind of something else that we kind of pinpointed on. We said Hayden Hurst might have a big game, but it was actually Russell Gage. He came out of nowhere, 9 catches, 114 yards. So they had 3 receivers. They put up a lot of yards in the air. But again, the defense I think they looked fast. They looked different. There wasn't a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan, but they did it when they needed most. They were 0 for 4 on fourth downs. They even tried a trick play to try to throw us off guard. And I thought Marquise Blair made an excellent tackle there to knock the ball out on that trick play, which would have been a momentum changer. So, yeah, I mean, you got to let Russ cook, and they did that. He had 35 passes today and only 20 rushing attempts today. So I'm not saying that's going to be the key for every game, but it definitely worked today.
I think we'll run through some positive and some negatives because there's always 2 sides to every game. I think for the positives, Russell Wilson, the way that he played and the tempo and the offense, it goes without saying. If we go over that, people already know for themselves. I think the main positive, apart from that, was obviously Jamal Adams. The way that he played on debut, you couldn't ask for anything more for a guy playing his first game for the Seahawks. The 12 total tackles led the team on defense, a sack, 2 TFLs, 2 QB hits. Only really tells part of the story. He was all over the place. They used him creatively. I think you have to give a lot of credit to Pete Carroll and Ken Norton Jr. for the way that they used him. People were wondering whether he was going to get a bit bored. That was the term that Greg Williams used. They found ways to allow him to impact the game and maybe make up for some of the flaws that they had on the defensive line. And he just elevated the defense. And that is what they needed him to do. Because if you are going to spend 2 first-round picks plus on a player, they have to come in and straight away, you have to be getting impact from them. Jamal Adams did that today.
Yeah, and that you could see the defense feeding off his energy. I mean, he came in and he put it right to him, and right out the gate, you saw that he was going to be a difference maker on the field. And Rob, we talked a lot about Jadeveon Clowney and how his difference maker against the 49ers and in the playoff game and the kind of player and impact that he had. And Jamal Adams did that today, and I think that he's going to be an impact player every game. They're going to have to account for him every single time. And he came in and he was a huge positive. I mean, I think a big sigh of relief, spending that much draft capital on a player and then finally getting to see him in uniform and making plays is a really nice benefit for, us Hawk fans who wanted to see him play. So it was great all around. And yeah, Russ was the offensive side. I mean, he played lights out. I mean, there's a few times, I'm screaming at my TV to get rid of the football because he's holding on the ball for so long. But I mean, you take the good with the bad with Russ because I mean, half the times he makes plays on it as well. So, yeah, I was really happy with the way the game went today.
I think the other positives on defense, I know that Lano Hill had the play against Julio Jones. If anybody wants to criticize Lano Hill for that play, you need to give your head a shake, because if you put any safety, even Jamal Adams, in 1v1 deep coverage against Julio Jones, they're going to get beat. So it's not Lano Hill's fault that he got beat on that play. I thought that he did well. When he was required to make a tackle to prevent a first down, he did it. So did Marquise Blair. So did Jamal Adams. They're tackling at the safety. Diggs got the interception at the end, had maybe a quieter game than some of those other guys, but they were rotating Lano Hill in and Blair and people like that. And I thought generally their tackling was good. That was an area that was a real problem last year, their tackling, and it was good. And look, it makes a big difference. Atlanta had to go for it on 4th down 4 times, and they failed every single time. And some of those times were because they were just short of, the first down marker. If you are putting teams into 4th and 1, 4th and 2, you've got a chance to create a turnover there. So those tackles, those, shoelace tackles right before they get to the line, they matter, and the safeties did that. And I thought overall they were good. And I'm going to come back to the defensive line in a bit when we talk a little bit about negatives. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, I like the way that DK Metcalf rebounded. I mean, the one thing with DK Metcalf is you are going to get drops from DK Metcalf, and you're going to have plays where, look, it's one game and he didn't have to do this today. He doesn't make the most of his size. Or he didn't last year. He wasn't really boxing out anybody on the red line. He doesn't really high point particularly well. This is an area that I hope he gets better this year. He's also going to have some drops. But the one thing about him is he seems to have amnesia. So when he makes a mistake, it never seems to linger. He comes back and makes big plays, had the horrible drop, came back, nearly got 100 yards in the game, Robbie.
Yeah, I mean, I was super frustrated with that drop because I mean I can't even remember what that one was, but it was a huge. I felt like that was going to be a huge momentum changer, and the next thing you know, we're going for it on 4th down and giving it up to him for a touchdown. And right even before that, he did that reach out, got the first down to came right back and answered the call. So yeah, I mean, you're going to get drops from that guy, but man, if once he starts putting it all together, he is a really good football player. And man, I was excited for him that he was able to turn it around after that drop. I mean, it was a good momentum changer, that could have went the other way for us. So I'm really happy about that.
I hope, if I could send a message, Brian Schottenheimer is not going to be watching this podcast, but if he just so happened to need to kill a bit of time on the plane, I would love it if he spent an afternoon, one afternoon a week, just trying to find ways to get DK Metcalf in that sort of 1v1 coverage so he can do a sluggo and night. Surely if you run 4-3 at that size and you can get a 1v1 matchup, how is anybody going to be able to stop him? And just the way that, I mean, that was just the easiest 4th down touchdown I think I've ever seen, Robbie. Listen, there was 2 sort of thoughts on the positive. I've never seen an easier 4th down conversion for that, and it went for a touchdown. And I don't think I've ever seen a safety play as well as Jamal Adams played today as well. So 2 big positives there. We have to talk a bit about some negatives as well. And we'll come back to the D-line because everyone expects us to talk a little bit about that. I thought the offensive line, it was not a reassuring performance because they are going to play much more offensive-minded this year. They are going to be putting a lot more on Russell Wilson, and that means there's going to be a lot more pressure on that offensive line to keep him upright. And I was very worried in that first half with the number of hits he was taking. Brandon Shell got bulldozed into the turf on one, and Wilson's legs kind of got caught up in, and it's exactly the same thing that happens when a QB tears an ACL and ends up out for the season. That was very ugly, and he cannot be hit 5-6 times in a half, even if you are going to play this kind of new pass-centric up-tempo style. They have got to work things out, and they have got to protect their quarterback better. He's got to get the ball out quicker as well. I mean, he's done that all through his career, holding onto the ball too long, maybe waiting for something to develop, the perfect pass to develop. He's got to get it out a bit quicker sometimes. But the O-line in particular, Shell, I'll let Damian Lewis off. It was his first game. Posick, I need to go back and watch again. I didn't really get a feel for how he played, Robbie, but I thought there were a few issues up front.
Yeah, especially on that right side. I mean, Wilson does have to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. I mean, a lot of those hits are on him, and he's taking those hits because he's holding on to the ball so much. I think for the O-line, in my opinion, I would say 50-50. 50% of it was good, 50% of it was not so good. And that's part of the cohesiveness and getting to gel together and getting that time. And, I think that's where preseason really probably comes in and helps a little bit. And so that was part of that ugly football that I was kind of expecting. I wasn't expecting, almost 40 points this week. So, I think they'll get better. I think, as far as running the football, I felt like they were opening up some big holes. I thought Carson played really well. I mean, he's definitely playing for that contract. It looks like he's all in for that new deal. So, yeah, I think just really when it comes down to the offensive line, just that time to gel. But yeah, it wasn't something that I looked at like as a super positive. I'd say it about 50-50. But yeah, Shell had a rough day, and Damian Lewis, he had a couple. There was that one drive there where we were trying to put the game away to go up 3 scores where he had like 3 penalties back to back to back. And, that's a rookie mistake, and things it'll develop over time and come. So I'm not super worried about it. It's one of those things that, yeah, it's definitely probably more of a negative though today.
And then to come on to the defensive line, I think it's a real concern because the Seahawks are not going to be in a position every week where they get this strong advantage like they had against Atlanta, where it's just the nature of the thing. Patrick Mahomes will have a slow start sometimes. The Chiefs will have an off day. The Seahawks are going to have off days. And on those days, they are going to need more from the defensive line. They cannot be giving up, 4.5 yards per carry. And I thought what was noticeable today is that there was no tricks, there was no misdirection, there was no jet sweeps, there was none of the stuff that like McVay does or Shanahan to try and get you off guard and have you moving one way and they'll run it the other way. It was just, we're going to run Todd Gurley right at Jaron Reed and Poona Ford, and they were having success after success. Now the Seahawks put pressure on Atlanta on the scoreboard, which meant that Atlanta had to go away from the running game. They couldn't run it as much because they had to chase the scoreboard. If the Seahawks can't get opponents into that position, or if they end up trailing in games, I'm worried about that run defense in particular, because that is going to be hard to get off the field if it's the Seahawks trying to chase the score. They've got to be better than that, Robbie. And for me, they've got to go out and get somebody. I don't have the answer because I don't know what shape Marcel Darius is in, or Snacks Harrison, or any of these guys. It's not good to have 330-pound, 40-pound defensive linemen sat on the couch watching week one and then say, hey, do you want to play against the Patriots next week? But they need more. They just need more. They need somebody who can plug some of these runs up the middle.
Yeah, they came into the game with 3 defensive tackles. I mean, we knew that they were going to need more going into it, going into the season. And so, yeah, I would expect a move this week. I don't like you said, who's actually available and ready to play. I'm not really sure. I thought overall, though, the defensive line surprised me a little bit. I thought, the stats might not show up. I thought LJ Collier played pretty good game. I thought, Benson Mayowa, he had that great 4th down sack that, he went diving for Matt Ryan to get it. And, there was a couple key plays where they made the stops when they need to. Yeah, running the football is going to be scary. It's going to be on our linebackers. I think one of the negatives for me was maybe Jordan Brooks. I don't even remember seeing him. I think he had maybe a tackle in the game. So, I don't know if he even got on the field that much. So, I think that'd be a negative for me. I was hoping to see a little bit more of his speed and how he plays. I don't know if he got injured or what. I need to go back and watch it myself. But, yeah, it's going to be on the linebackers to help the D line as well. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But we do need another D tackle going forward.
We do, and again, I don't want to run over old topics that we discussed, but for me, it wasn't even Clowney today. I was kind of thinking Everson Griffin would have just that extra little bit of something off the edge. That guy who is going to get you, 8 to 10 sacks, and in a big game might just be the difference between a game-changing play and not. I'm not sure that I'm confident enough of watching that. The Mayowa play was great. I don't know what Matt Ryan was doing. He kind of just bootlegged to the right, thought he had all day. And then Mayowa kind of snuck up from behind him, and it was a bit of a coverage sack, but still great pursuit. Loved the Superman. You remember when Jonathan Allen was it who did that at Alabama a few years ago, flying over the line? It's kind of similar to that, just without the guys in front of him. So great play. I don't know. It to me, it still feels like, wouldn't this just look great if they just had one more guy, a defensive tackle who can plug some runs, and at least one great established pass rusher that you've got confidence in.
Yeah, and it would be. I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. But at the same time, like I want to give credit where credit due. I mean, they played, I think, a pretty good football game today against a really tough Atlanta Falcons offense. And so, I don't want to discredit some of the guys. It would be nice to have an Everson Griffin or someone, but D tackle is where we're going to need it. I think stopping the run, and just having that depth. I mean, if Puna goes down or Jaron Reeves goes down, who do we have to fill in behind him? That's the real important. We need depth at that position, and I think going out and getting someone is going to be beneficial for us. And we'll see how it plays out the rest of this week. Going forward and who they bring in for trying out and signing and whatnot. So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just give the Jets a ring. They already look like a dumpster fire. Maybe they've got somebody stashed that we could have for what little stock the Seahawks have left in the 2021 draft. I don't know. Maybe there's some bit of magic left they could do to get somebody in who can have an impact rather than ringing up a guy who's probably eating a pizza right now watching Red Zone. I'm not saying that Marcel Darius and Snacks Harrison are doing that, but the nickname with Damian Harrison perhaps is a giveaway. Let's finish just by looking ahead. I kind of had over here, obviously I'm in England. I have to watch the game if it's not on TV over here on my laptop. I have Red Zone on in the background on the TV. You can see it there. And they showed a lot of the New England game against Miami. And from what I saw, I think you have to, say fair play to Bill Belichick. He's lost half his defense and his quarterback, his legendary quarterback, and he's kind of plugged guys in, including the, Cam Newton there. And they got a really good win against Miami. This is going to be a challenge, Robbie, next week to follow this up because there's not going to be any surprise with the offense anymore. They're playing a legendary coach. But having said that, it's also the type of game the Seahawks should go and win. And I wrote this in the blog in the instant reaction post. So just go and win it next week, start 2-0 and get some momentum building.
Yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit in some of the highlights of the Patriots game, and I don't know if I would ever call a win over Miami quality win. I mean, it didn't seem like it was that big of a deal. I mean, Cam Newton seemed to play pretty good, and I think when it comes to Cam Newton, that's the kind of guy that we play fairly well, other than maybe the what was that divisional round when we went down like 35-0. But I really the Patriots are just a solid football team all around, and but I wouldn't call a win over Miami super quality. But it'll be interesting to see how we match up, and I think this is a winnable game. This is a game that we're going to go in and we should start the season 2-0, and I'd feel really comfortable with that.
I'll just having a look at the score in the background there, and I can see the Niners are already 10-0 up against the Cardinals with the football and driving. I don't know whether that says watch out for the Niners this year, or the Cardinals are not quite as good as everybody expected. But good win for the Seahawks then, and they get a victory to start in week 1. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section. What impressed you most? Was there something that we didn't discuss that you think we should have been discussing in this instant reaction podcast? Let us know in the comment section. Spread the word. You can head over to Seahawks Draft Blog as well. There is going to be a pretty hefty debate on the comment section over there. There's a full instant reaction blog post up now live as well. We'll do that every single week after the game is finished. Head over there if you want to know what I think about the game, and people will be joining in the comment section below as well. Like the video, share it, let everybody know that it's here, and we'll speak to you again soon.